we can discuss what we're going to talk about. What do you guys want to talk about?
I think there's a really epic lesson that I learned recently that applies to anybody and everybody.
All right, fuck it. Cue the intro.
Knock this out for that.
Okay, go ahead, bitch.
Now that you've seen the intro, now you'll be ready for this.
Well, wait, before you do, preface it.
Yeah.
Like, share,
Oh yeah,
comment, subscribe,
leave a few comments, reply to other people's comments. Battle it out in the comments where it really matters.
Yeah, exactly.
But also
Prove
share.
your worth as an individual human being through your comments.
Just like for example, when somebody says this podcast is great, that's when you want to go tear that person down. That's when it's worth battling in the comments for.
Yeah.
So comments and shares, those are the juicy ones.
And then upvote and downvote comments.
Oh shit. Okay.
Oh yeah, you can do that on YouTube. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. I'm glad we got all of that out of the way, because that was I think that's probably the most important part of the podcast. You don't have to listen beyond that if you don't want to.
Yeah.
That being said, Mitchell.
So that being said, now for this, the little bonus.
This is the bonus content.
Yeah, the bonus content. So right whenever you're like applying yourself to do something really great with your life, and for the record, the only really valid great thing that you can do is join us in our mission to end child slavery, abuse, and poverty, because anything else is just going to keep perpetuating that. So let's resolve the biggest issue, which is that. So in that process of changing the system, which is what we're here to do, there's a lot of ups and downs that come in that journey. And I've noticed over the past month a lot of different things. So for example, we had our wedding, and then it was awesome, right? It was like tons of people all coming together. It was like some unprecedented event in the system, and we all made it happen. It was fucking legendary. Yeah. And then in the aftermath, we hosted people, and it was awesome. And for like 5 days, we were up till like 2 a.m. and hanging out, talking about stuff that matters, pushing each other, all that. And then after that, then all of our like sleep exhaustion caught up. And then I got pretty sick for like a week, as did Jessica, as did some other people here locally. And it was like, if I only operated based on emotions, that would have been horrible, because I felt like the worst I think I've ever felt. It was up there, top four or 5 times. And I'm just like laying there like freaking bedbound for a week with just no energy. I'm like, oh no. It was like the back chat that was in there that reminded me of a younger version of myself, when I would have a bunch of momentum going for myself, and then something comes in and like takes it away. And that right there, like that's something that we all have to get very, very good at navigating. Because guess what? Down the road, when we're running for political office, or when we have a huge business deal on the line, or whatever, right? Things are going super great. It's super high momentum. Everything's growing like crazy. Like we had like a double the record in our sales team the week before too. I was like, this is freaking sick. Like, let's go. We're, to infinity and beyond. And then boom, it was like everything came, at least in my immediate environment, to a grinding halt. And I had to lay in bed for about a week. And then Teddy, our dog, got neutered. And I did not anticipate how much that would affect him. He's running around with a cone on his head, like hitting walls and stuff. And then he's getting irritated. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then at 2 a.m., he's waking up and he's like, needing to go pee and stuff. And I'm just like exhausted. And I was really put to my, to see what I'm made of. And it was like, I'm sure y'all can relate to that feeling of when it's like things go from being very, very good to then like very, very, very testing. And it was in such a short span of time. I was like, wow, if I only operated on emotion, I would probably like, I don't know, I would like want to kill myself or something because it was just so extreme. But in those moments, you breathe, you go back to your principles, and it doesn't mean it feels pleasant, but it's like, where am I still being a victim here? Where do I want this to just be easy? Where do I want Jessica to just do something for me? Or where do I want someone else to come save the day?
Yeah.
And that was really cool to be able to walk through that, because now I'm here and I'm feeling a lot better. And it's like we're persevering through. But that process is part of self-perfection. Like that is where you really get to see self-perfection in action. It's easy when everything's good, but it's not easy all the time.
That point
And
that you made of like things going from really good to like grinding halt or the opposite direction. If you're not emotionally stable, like I've experienced that before, right? Really early on in my process, before I was like as emotionally stable as I am now. And if you're not emotionally stable, that just takes you out. Like it is like, and it's kind of like the wave that you're going for, shooting for it, not necessarily consciously, right? You're not like wanting for something bad to happen consciously, but on an unconscious level, that's what you're expecting. You're expecting to go up and down and have this ride or whatever. And it's actually like, I don't know. I remember talking like years ago to a friend of mine, and she was like, man, I'm having such a great day. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what do you have planned? What's going on next? She's like, man, I just feel, I don't want to think about anything else. I just want to hold on to this moment because this is amazing and I don't want it to go away. Right. And then what do you think happened next? Right?
Yeah. It's the fear of loss, right?
Exactly. It's that thing that Cam talked about on a few podcasts, or like that moment when you make that decision within yourself of like, I want to hold on to this feeling or this moment. Like it's gone. Like you're already planning its demise essentially. But when you're just doing out of principle, like, hey, this is the next thing I have to do, this is the next step, all of that, then naturally these moments come in where you can actually appreciate. And I've experienced so much of this lately where it's just like, oh, I'm actually really enjoying this. I almost feel like how is this like so naturally feeling good? I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to make it happen. It's just that in this moment, I can take a step back I feel amazing. And I'm like, oh, wow, I appreciate this. Like, and I can appreciate everything that I've done to get to this moment. And I'm having more and more of those these days, but those aren't the moments that I'm like, oh, I have to look for moments to appreciate. I'm not doing that. I'm just, okay, where do I need to apply myself? And then like, it's funny because most of the time I'm like, I really don't fucking want to do that. I really don't want to even go near that. But then I'll just start like, it's fun because I'll just start plugging away in my TT, like all the things that I'm trying to avoid. And within that, I just start to understand, oh, okay, well, this is where I'm holding myself back. This is where I'm resisting or wherever. And then it's more clear of like, well, I don't want to hold on to that. So yeah, I'm going to go do that thing. So that was just something that I saw within what you were saying.
Yeah.
For anybody who has Techno Tutor, put into your Techno Tutor, I make peace with sickness. I make peace with being sick. Make note of it. Put that in your Techno Tutor. If we really looked at all the utility of being emotional about our sickness, the use in being emotional about our sickness, well, a lot of the times it gave you free passes when you were a kid, right? You didn't have to go to school that day if you really played it up and you really bedridden yourself. But you couldn't fake it. You actually had to become that, right? You actually had to be sick. And I've watched, I was friends with a lot of like like my best friends were all girls in high school and all that. And I would watch them like invoke sickness upon themselves in order to stay home when they didn't have a test. They didn't want to do a test. They didn't
I
prepare.
invoke sickness upon you in the name of sickness.
The sick gods. I would watch them when they had a test that they weren't prepared for, or a project that they didn't hand in, right? They didn't finish it. They repressed it, right? About the fact that they're consciously doing it on purpose, but maybe they weren't consciously doing it, but it's a pattern that they participated in so that they could get away with XYZ. Maybe it's, you don't want to have to do chores around the house, or Mitchell, you're giggling a little bit.
Well, it's just such a fucked situation that like, one, that we're just putting people in school to do pointless projects.
Right.
And then that you have this whole thing where it's like, hey, I'm going to waste my life. And instead of wasting my life this way, I'm going to waste my life this way by pretending to be sick and then actually getting sick and then creating this whole character around being sick. And like the whole thing is absolutely fucked. Like, why is that even happening? Right. Why aren't we all just like working together on shit that really matters?
Exactly. Where even if you're sick, you still want to push forward and go do it, right?
We put so much significance on things that have no fucking actual value or significance in this world. You know, it's literally all in the mind, but it's because of the way that we've structured our society, where we put this outside pressure, societal pressure on, oh, everyone values school, but everyone knows school is bullshit. Literally everyone knows that,
there's some people who think it's not bullshit.
Yeah.
They know it's bullshit. I
don't know. I
like when you're sitting in school, and you're like, I gotta learn this thing, right? If you become an adult, then like you've never used a fucking logarithm in your life. Never. Like unless you're in some specialized field, you've never done it, right? And so like as well as if you're sitting in school, you're going like, why do I need to know this? Like, what's the value of this? Why am I here? I hate being here. This is so boring. A lot of people have had this experience. I'll leave some room for that one child. He's like, I just love being here. Like 8 hours a day. This is so great. Oh boy. Like it's funny because that was not me. I did well in school. Well, when I applied myself, and I hated it. I hated every fucking waking moment of it, where it was just like, I don't know, as if, you walk in, you hear the lecture, you take the test, easy. And then the busy work that they give you, I'm like, no, I'm not even going to entertain it. It's not happening.
I was just fucking around the whole time. So I kept getting kicked out of class because I was so bored.
Oh, nice. I think we would like each other in high school.
I would send these, anyways. Me and like my buddy Scott, we would like send love notes to each other and try to get it taken by the teacher.
That's good.
That's the opposite and reads it. And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's like, you like that one image?
Not expecting you to say
that. So you look at all of the ways that we've used sickness in our youth, right? On the weekend, you don't want to do chores. So you're tired and sick, right? You don't want to get asked to do anything. All these little things that as a pattern, it was a way to manipulate our reality in order to get what we want. In other words, not be bothered. And, and so that becomes automated inside of us, where we think when we grow up, especially we're all in relationships, all the people in relationships, it's like on a repressed level. Repressed means it's not even coming to your conscious awareness. It's just an automated point where you're like, again, it's on your awareness, but you're manipulating your partner by, there's like a point of manipulating your partner to do stuff for you because you're sick. So you play it up that little extra bit, right? Or not wanting to, have to go out and do stuff. It's like kind of like depression, right? It doesn't make sense that it's actually going to give you what you want, but it's the way that we've learned to manipulate our environment to get what we want out of it. Because when we were children, we can throw temper tantrums and then we would just get what we want out of our external. It doesn't work that way here. We don't have parents, we don't have et cetera, et cetera. So there's one dynamic of it where there's one thing that we all need to sort through, like for the people listening, right? Of the emotional relationship that we have with being sick. The emotional relationship. Getting rid of all the wrong. And then there's the practicality of sickness, the life-giving sickness. What that means is every macro has a consolidation period. That's why I call it a consolidation period, right? So Mitch, what you're describing is you're climbing and then you consolidate. You have to gather all the new and then shoot up again. Right, for people who do their forex trading and all that stuff, this consolidation, right? You're climbing and then it ranges, or it's dropping and then it ranges, and then it goes either way. So it's consolidation. You're consolidating all of that growth for the last how long? Because a lot of the times, what you might notice is you're trying to integrate new habits. You're trying to push yourself to new levels. All of those points, and you're having to think and push and use will, and then you'll get really sick. And on the other side of that sickness, those points will become automated. So then you can focus on the next level. Because there are physical patterns that you had to overcome through thinking and focusing and writing and all that stuff, where what your body does is it's like, okay, got it. You don't want this information. So it starts shedding it through mucus and phlegm and eye boogers and snot and sweat and all of that stuff to get that information out of the body so that you can integrate new information, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I see how then for a week I didn't do like much writing or anything, and like I just did the bare minimum of TT because I was like, I didn't even know where my laptop was half the time. I was like, really? And yesterday I sat down and I just set my timer for 20 minutes and just started writing again. I was like, I have to get back into the habit of writing. It's like if I don't have that, all that information is just still like swirling around. And so I sat down for 20 minutes and it was just like perfect. And I could feel like it was like, imagine you have a giant, like, I don't know, a bunch of just literally like heavy information on you. And it was like I felt a big chunk of it like release. And then I was like, okay, every day, no excuse, start writing again. And that I think has been a big missing key for me recently in the past like 2 weeks has just been having that writing, because like you're talking about, that consolidating of the information, shedding the old information, the writing process helps all of that.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Because I experienced something similar where it's like just being, so yeah, to add a little bit of context, it's like so many people are sick from coming from, I know the Copes are sick, Maylat, me, Kian, like everybody and their dog is sick. Is Teddy okay though?
He's not sick. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's sick, bro.
He's sick, dude. So the the other dynamic is you look at nature and it's like, if you really imagine being a tree, right? And the thing that you're known for is like all your leaves and shit. And then you lose all of them and fall. And you're like, Maybe probably not like that, right? But the point is,
you're really emotionally unstable tree.
It's like it's good that they don't have minds, right? Because maybe they'd be like, no, I don't want to lose my leaves. And try to keep them on, right? But those are dying.
You're gonna hold on to these leaves.
Like changing colors, and it's like holding on to it. Those are dying parts of you. Those are parts where you have to let it go. So you look around, no matter where you go in the world, even in the economic cycles, there's up, high, down, low. So you have economic recession, depression, and then economic, I don't remember what this one is, but the one up here is like prosperity or something like that. right? Those cycles coordinate with the same kind of point, right? And in nature, you have spring and you have summer and you have fall and you have winter. Sometimes you have dark winters when Biden's in presidency.
Isn't it funny? I mean, I definitely have this like belief. It's a belief, I'll admit that. Of like, well, we can somehow hack it so that it's like 80% growth, 20% down, you know?
Right. And that's reasonable. But I'm glad you brought that point out, because I've had that too. I'm like, dude, like it is before I was considering all the life points, I was like, before I was considering all the life points, I was like, no, well, that's best. We would never get sick. But really, it's our judgments and reactions about being sick.
Yeah.
Right. And there will be, because look at a child. A child is like fucking life. Gets sick all the time. That's part of their growth process of integrating into this world where we have like so much, for example, electromagnetic activity and all that stuff. It's like their body has to develop to a point where they can handle all of that stress and pressure on the body. So in terms of the sickness point, the shedding of information, it's it's that point where you just need to make a decision. That's one part of it. One of the parts is like, oh, I have to make a decision to rest my body, because if the whole time you're resisting it and be like, I just want to keep going and like pushing and all that stuff, and I want to prove that I'm a fucking I'm a gangster and all that stuff, it's going to create more conflict and friction. Right. And there's a balance. There's definitely a balance. You do what you can within reason, and you're always just checking in your body. And it's a time where you really take full stock of your body. You're always checking, how's my nose? How's my mouth? How's my phlegm? How's my throat? How's my breathing? Right? How's my back? Is it pain because I'm coughing too much? All of these points.
How's my hair?
How's my hair? Is my hair okay, dude? How's my hair? I'm just wearing a hat. So all of these points. How's my beard? How's my mustache? So it's a point where it pushes you to slow down, which is really good. It's actually what you want. Right now, check in with us in a fucking week or two. Mitch is smiling. He's like, that's not what I want.
Well, no, that's so funny, because I was like, it's like I realized that, yes, it's a necessary process of growth, and it's like the shedding of information. I was like, this is actually a perfect time for it to happen. But it's like, I just see how much I've pushed myself. So you're talking about right before the sickness, is like you're pushing, you're expanding yourself, you're putting your will into everything. So I'm like really expanding, right? And then I was like, oh shit, like, I'm sick. Like, I hope I can remember all this stuff I was expanding in. And I'm like, I realized that that's just like a stupid thought, but it's kind of funny.
Do you mean in terms of being able to measure your change kind of thing?
More like, I hope I don't forget stuff that's important, and then there's a consequence later because I forgot, because I'm doing so much stuff. Yeah, that's why I do the writing every day, because in my writing I'm like forgiving myself, and then all the stuff comes up of what I forgot to do, then I write it all down, then I put it in my journal. It's this whole process.
That's really, like, I have that all the time when I'm just doing techno tutor or writing, and I'm like, oh yeah, put that in the to-do,
Mm-hmm. That's like real that's how you actually use your TT.
What do you mean by that?
Like unreal practical shit.
Right.
For everyone putting in your techno tutor, I'm a crypto billionaire. Let me see your to-do list.
It doesn't even say trade on it.
They're like, what's a to-do list? I'm just gonna become a billionaire.
Mitch, turn on your mic a tiny bit. A little bit. Okay. I want you to get
better?
Yeah, I think so. Is mine good?
Yeah, dude, you sound great. You sound like an angel. Oh wait, I forgot about angels. Shout out to Equoff for enlightening me. Anyway, Yeah. So that's been a really fascinating process to go through, of just seeing the stark contrast of really, really, really push, and then like, oh shit, not pushing. Now, okay, direct myself every day and then just get myself out of this.
Mhm. And right. And so that's the other side of taking time for yourself and um, slowing down, is also just being self-honest and looking at what you can do and continuously moving yourself and all that. And watch, you're going to see all the people who didn't come to Minnesota who are coming to Texas. If they come for long enough, at least like 3-4 days plus, they'll get fucking sick. They'll get sick.
I was just looking at Deer Antler Velvet, right?
What?
Deer,
Deer
Antler Velvet.
Is this some band that you and Cameron listen to?
Definitely.
Sounds like them.
No, that's Bunny Boy. No, Deer Antler Velvet is like, okay, so deer they grow antlers, right? When their antlers are growing, they're covered with this thing that looks like velvet, right?
Gotcha.
And then during like the rut season, when they start to
The what
be ready
season?
to mate,
Rut?
yeah,
Huh.
yeah, when they're ready to mate.
Wait, hold on. Is that like, can you give me the more context to the other seasons that are included in this line of seasons?
I don't
there's
know what the other
mating
seasons are
season,
called.
there's-
No, the mating season is like the rut.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So okay, like so during the mating season, they start to like butt heads, because that's what animals, well, those kinds of animals do. Like they show their dominance, and then whoever's the more dominant male gets to mate with the females, whatever, right? During that season, or just before that season, their velvet starts to shed off of their antlers. And it's interesting because the velvet is actually there to make the antlers grow, right? So that it's like it has a protective covering over the antlers. The antlers grow in a very rapid pace in a very short period of time. And then they can use these antlers to strike another deer or protect themselves and things like that, right? But with this like soft velvet over it, they don't do much of like butting heads or anything like that. And it's because they want to protect their antlers to grow and everything. And also that velvet, I guess, is sensitive for them to some degree. But then when it becomes the rut season, then that velvet starts to shed, and it looks so gory. It looks pretty metal, like just like blood and strings of like gore hanging from their antlers. It looks like they just like killed some small animal, and it's just been hanging from their antlers, and it's just like draping down blood. And sometimes there's like a really cool picture online where there's like a deer eating his own velvet, like to just pull it.
So the
off
velvet is like skin or something? Like it's
it's
if
kind of
you
like
peel
skin.
velvet, it's like
Yeah.
bleed.
dude, that'd be a pretty sick name for a band.
Deer antler velvet. Well, it's like really popular within, I guess, like within athletic groups, and also I remember KT talking about it like long ago. I don't know if it was in Natural Cures or where, but he recommended Royal Velvet, which is basically they take this deer antler velvet and they distill it into some kind of tincture or some powder or something like that, and you can eat it, and it gives you this the same properties that helps the antlers grow really fast. It helps muscles in a human being grow really fast as well, and also kind of strengthens whatever processes are going on in a human. But the reason why I was bringing all this up is because it's like that same shedding process, right? It happens not just in humans with getting sick and things like that, or trees with their leaves, but also in deer and their antlers and their velvet on their antlers. And it's pretty fucking cool. It's
The reason I was bringing in that I was questioning the rut period is, because isn't that what people describe of when they're growing, and then they stop growing and they fall into a rut?
Oh fuck! I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's how.
Damn, I'm looking at this shit. Wow.
What did you Google?
Wow, deer antler velvet. Oh man. That's brutal.
Isn't it gory? Isn't it cool looking?
I just see a bunch of vitamins.
Oh, and velvet shed.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
big setting. Yeah.
Here's one. Can I share my screen?
No.
Oh no, I don't want this to get X-rated.
Holy shit.
But oh, you can share your screen. What the fuck?
Look at this. Look at that guy.
Who gave
see
you
him?
permission?
I don't know.
Who gave you permission?
You see it?
Yeah, look at the
Yeah.
other one next to the powder.
Right
That
where your
one-
mouse is. Oh.
oh,
This
wow.
one?
No. You scrolled past it.
Look at these guys. Oh, nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Look at this guy. Oh.
Zoom it.
Yeah, can you click on that one? That's pretty awesome.
Oh shit. Dude.
Wow. That's how I felt this week.
All
right, that's enough.
Raw.
Yeah, I see what you're saying though. That's just like that's part of nature. Like that's life.
Yeah.
When you say like team life or like life, yeah, it's like life is fucking gory sometimes.
Yeah, life is a virus that fucking kills ego, like murders. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you understand
Life
everything
isn't a
else-
virus. A virus is part of life.
that's what I'm just giving an example of life.
Okay.
You know? Like life is when, but if you look at it, right? If you look at your body, you have enzymes that eat other living food and use that to produce something for your body. It's the same way that we should look at my perspective is the same way you should look at. That's what plants do with oxygen. It takes it and it kills the oxygen, makes it into something else. Or sorry, carbon dioxide, right? That's what our bodies do with oxygen. Just like how bugs eat other bugs and fish eat other fish and we eat thing. If we saw self as just one whole, it's like we wouldn't be like judgmental of the fact that things die and things kill and things like that. It's just the starting point. What's the starting point? Is it to support growth or is it to you kissed my girlfriend, I'm gonna kill you or whatever that people kill people for? Right? Because a lot of murders are emotionally charged and alcohol induced.
Dude, it's a 6-year-old. He's kissing your girlfriend. It's okay.
What?
You say 6D?
No, it's a 6-year-old.
Oh, like in kindergarten?
Yeah. Well, first.
Oh yeah. Well, that's where the trauma begins.
Anyway, so I was considering this point of like, I guess you're talking about sickness and going into like making it such a big deal or the negative emotions around it, right? But it also kind of correlates with just projection of negative things in general, of things that you don't want to happen in general, right? Like I'm really thinking of it in the context of pushing myself, especially in the beginning, but still today, pushing myself through points where I think a certain pattern is going to play out. And I'm thinking like as if that pattern is something outside of me. But the reality is I'm the one who's holding on to that pattern. I'm the one who's like, by me thinking that that's what's going to happen, and then maybe avoiding or taking different actions or whatever, because I think that's going to happen, even though it's not necessarily that it's going to happen, not necessary that it's going to happen. Then I create that pattern. Does that make sense? Like,
It's like your projection, like you create the projection kind of thing.
yeah. Like when you're projecting, like you think, oh, this person's going to say that, or that person, I'll give a really good example from long ago, right? I used to be afraid to text my friends, right? I would be afraid to text them because I was afraid that they would be annoyed with me texting them. And so then I wouldn't text them, or like I would text them like some really short like message that they couldn't really respond to effectively because like, what are you trying to say? And then I'd be like, see, they're annoyed with me because they didn't text me,
Right, exactly. You would end up creating the situation by the way you participate in it. And text messages are pretty like, you can see all the information that you're sending, but in person, you can't see all the information you're sending. A lot of it's unconscious, a lot of it's subconscious. So you won't even be picking up on the subtle things that you do to actually create the thing that you're projecting is going to happen.
Yeah. And so I guess the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I know it's not just me who goes into that. Like we all do this on some level, but it's really nice. Like right now I have Christine over right now.
You just have her over to the house?
just
one or
right
two
now.
nights?
Just tonight in this
Just the
moment.
weekend?
Yeah, just for the weekend. Ah, damn it, it's Monday. No.
Yeah.
No, Christine's my partner. She's gonna be here indefinitely.
It's her fucking house now. You're staying at her place.
That's right.
You're gonna be there indefinitely.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But no, it's awesome to have a partner who's living alongside you and able to pick up on some of these points or patterns, right? Like it's really awesome to have someone who's walking this process with you. There's so much value in that like I was saying before, it's almost, it's immeasurable almost of how much value having a partner who's walking this process with you is. Because I say almost immeasurable because you can actually see the results of it. And that is measurable, but just to what extent is like, it's so valuable. And so having her here, it's cool because she'll point out, hey, you're going into this pattern and you tend to do this whenever this happens or this comes up. And her pointing that out allows me to reflect on something that, like you said, you usually don't see when you're going into that pattern. Like if you're self-honest, you'd be able to see it, right? But oftentimes we're so used to the patterns that we do that we just accept them as normal. And then because we just accept it, we just automatically go into it without even thinking about it, without even considering it. And then it's cool to have somebody in a sense, just put it in your face. And I'm not saying that because when we talk, it's not like she's throwing things in my face. She's like really practically supporting with, hey, I've noticed that you do this. And then like, it's now in my awareness of, oh,
right.
Shit.
Right.
You're right. And like, oh shit, now I have to do something about that. Like, and then what's cool about it too, is there's this little moment where I'm like, fuck, I've been doing this. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I have to change that. Like, man, okay, now I have work to do, but then it's also like really cool, like, because I was not going to pick that up on my own anytime soon, And so I wanted to share that because, well, for everyone who's starting this process or who's been doing this process and you're doing it alone, you need to find a partner. You need to find someone else who's doing this process. And how much that's going to support you, I just can't explain it just like, through just explaining it. You have to experience it. You have to like actually live it. And And it's cool because then you're also supporting that other person, and it helps you to both develop and grow at such a rapid rate. It's like you've got a secret weapon in your back pocket, you know, other than TT. But I think what's really valuable about that is we go through life just wherever you're at. If you're over the age of 7, 10, I don't know, 10, let's say. If you're over the age of 10, we go through life just sort of, this is what life is. We already have an expectation of life. We've already made our decisions about what life is. And everything that you're doing, if you don't like your life especially, but whether you like your life or not, you've kind of already taken in all the information that you have available to you, and you've put it into what you can understand, right? Which is this limited sphere. And so because it's already in this package, any new information that comes in, you're sorting it into this limited view of who you are and what life is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we talk about self-honesty so much, because if you're self-honest, then you would know that you are beyond this limited view. But so many people take that concept of like, I know I'm more than just this form, and they turn it into spirituality. They turn it into like this really ethereal thing that you can't grasp. There's nothing you can practically do about it. It's just this like feeling, this emotion of like, I am beyond this physical body, and I am source energy, and like, okay, but how is that affecting your life today? Right. And so when we're talking about self-honesty, especially in this context, it's like practically looking at where you're limiting yourself here in this physical real world, this physical body. Not, okay, maybe you are source energy. Okay. But how does that change your day-to-day life? How does that change what you're able to do here? How does that change what impact you're going to have in this physical? Because we're all participating in this physical. Or if not, just fucking leave. Just fucking, end it, right? And so the point with having a physical partner, it's somebody who's here in the physical as well. They see you physically. They're not looking at you as source energy, like God divine. Like it's funny. Everyone looks at themselves as like God divine, but you never look at another person like that. You are God divine. Oh my God. Like, or if you do, it's just for a moment.
Them for sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
then you're like
often,
writing them pomes.
But you know what I'm talking about? Like in the
Yeah.
spiritual world, like people are like, oh, like your vibration, your energy is so divine and all that shit. It's like, it's just because they're trying to manipulate you for sex.
I have seen that actually. I have seen that. I've seen like skits on YouTube where it's like, you are my goddess, you are my queen. Oh my God. Like, I just felt this like vibration. We resonate together, all that shit. And it's like, and literally that lasts. I have not seen that last more
between
than
the first time they have sex. Beyond that point,
I don't think I've seen that last more than 6 months. Like in actuality, like 6 months, I give it, and then there's like huge problems where they're not talking to each other, and then they're like, I don't know what happened. We were intertwined. Maybe the universe just doesn't want us to be together anymore. Maybe it was just for that moment. It's like, you got played. Yeah.
And then you go in the whole twin flame bullshit thing, soulmate.
Yeah. And here's again, that's usually people who are not physically together, right? They can really entertain that shit, because once they physically get in the same room and they've got to live together, then what happens?
That's hilarious.
Right?
That's so funny. Yeah.
And so here's a point where, if you're struggling with self-honesty, which like, if you're struggling with self-honesty, how are you going to be like, yeah, it's me, I'm struggling with self-honesty? Like, you're probably lying to yourself about that, right? But this is a point where you can't fudge it, right? You can't lie about it. As far as if you're both walking this process, you're going to see things about that other person where you're like, hey, you're you're doing this. And they're either going to own up to it and take responsibility for it and change it, or they're going to continue being dishonest about it to themselves. And you'll be able to see that clearly. And the same thing will happen. They'll say something about you and you're like, oh, okay, this is a point where I need to change, where I can take responsibility, where I've been avoiding, where I didn't see. And that is, in a nutshell, tremendous for your process, because then you actually change those things that have been keeping you back, that you've been avoiding. You're gonna say something, Asif?
Mitchell, have you ever cried while you're doing process?
What is crying?
What the fuck? Okay, Mr. Governor. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Like, you mean when I'm writing?
Yeah, just when you're using technically to write and you cry.
Maybe.
Definitely.
I've definitely done it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
If it's not in the moment, it's like later. I'll be like just sitting there, and then I'll start crying.
Just processing, like whatever the point is.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was like, based off what Drake was saying, what ran through my head is like, what talking about the shedding, right? Like, because if you go through some real self-honesty, you're really pushing yourself. And another form of shedding is crying, right? That you literally have contained in your teardrops is cortisol, the stress hormone.
Hormone.
The stress hormone.
I like that word.
Cortisol hormone. Hormone.
Hormone.
So the way that you're like in your body is cortisol, that is stress. So the way your body excretes stress is through tears.
And you literally call it shedding.
That's
tears.
so much more practical than I ever thought crying was. Damn.
When I understood,
I'm gonna go cry right now.
Mitchell just needs to understand, why is this practical? Okay, I'm gonna go do it.
Right, but we think it's like emotional and weakness and all this stuff, but it's like there's this really practical function to it. I mean, why would the body never does anything impractical? You know what I mean? But we have all these judgments.
If you program it to, it will.
But that's not the body, right?
That's your mind, yeah, too.
Exactly. That's like the overlay of you're pushing a point on it. So, yeah, that's what teardrops are. But I had that same reaction as Mitchell on like me years ago of like, oh, I should just stop judging crying. If I need to cry, just let it out. That's my body. So when you try to keep your tears in, it's problematic. It's like trying to keep your poo in. Right? It's like trying to
Which I don't recommend. I don't recommend. I'm the poo expert on this podcast.
Yep. Until Christine's on here yet. No, you guys are pretty equal in your poo knowledge. I think no, you're actually more of a poo enthusiast. She's a holistic nutritionist.
Yeah, she's got the whole overview. I specialize in poop.
Yeah, exactly. The Kefir diet. So the point I was bringing up there was like, yeah, even that has, when you push yourself in the context of being really self-honest and having to face yourself, there's that shedding process of, for example, crying. And then I was thinking, if you're not crying, you're not doing it yet. I'm like, Drake's definitely cried. I definitely cried. Like, I know that for a fact. The month where I made the most money before I became a distributor, I mean, now I've like, it's like baby food, but at that time, that was when I like cried the most. I was like digging into like the most shit. I had like a picture of TechnoTutor and like my notebook sitting at an Airbnb in New South Wales, Australia, the month that I made like 30K. And it says like, I'm just not good enough or some shit. And I'm like, I was fucked up. I was like, dude, holy shit. Like, this is crazy. All this stress was in my body. Right? All of this stress was in my body. So it's just like the leaves falling off, shedding tears, mucus, a lot of information contained in mucus, right? Like snot, phlegm, all that stuff. So deal with your resistances and reactions to sick and excretion, and, breathe when you poo, and it's important.
Maybe don't breathe in your poo.
Don't breathe in your poo. Breathe when you are pooing. Now,
maybe light a candle. Just
switching gears from poop talk, cry talk and snot talk.
Welcome to this week's episode of Poop Talk with our guests Mitchell and Asif. You guys are on my podcast now.
Drake's taking over the podcast.
Poop talk. We have a trip coming up.
You do?
We all do.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Texas.
You going to Texas? Can you pick me up along the way?
That's potential, actually. Maybe. Mitch, you going to Texas?
Oh yeah. Of course I'm going to fucking Texas. What do you think I'm doing?
I'm
I'm not going to Texas?
So everyone's going to Texas for a massive fucking party. Basically like a 10-day party. Now longer because, well, for other reasons, but
I'm gonna shoot that 308 rifle. I'm gonna kill a wild hog. We're gonna cut it up and we're gonna put it on Cameron's grill and we're gonna eat it. It's gonna be fucking sick.
Mitch.
I've already put it into my TT. It's gonna.
That whole statement, yeah. He's
Basically.
been visualizing every day he's sick. He's like just visualizing that.
Yeah, that's like how I made it through. Hey, that was actually so. Back to the sickness thing for just a minute. I remember laying in bed at like 2 a.m., couldn't sleep, and I'm having these. I had like a really bad fever. I was like, all these memories, like. I was resisting telling stories.
Made me
Persevere
tired
anyway.
about it.
I was dreaming.
See, I'm crying.
and all
I
these
yawned and
memories.
I started crying on live fucking podcast. Okay. And I'm having these memories of like
On
deep-
live fucking podcast. You're making it
deep-seated stuff.
hypothetical.
Like I remember like when I was living in Brazil and like all this crazy shit I totally suppressed because I was like drinking a lot when I was there. And it was like I totally forgot about these memories. And they're just like it's vivid in my mind at 2 a.m. I'm like, wow, it felt almost like the fever was like burning off these old memories.
Wow.
Really fascinating stuff.
Oh wow, that's like
Yeah,
in
That's
that
fascinating.
in Narconon. You know they have that procedure where
What's
or
Arcanon?
not procedure. Narconon is like a Narcotics Anonymous.
Oh, Narcanon. Gotcha.
Yeah, Narconon.
Not Arcanon.
Arcanon.
Narconon.
I was like, Drake is reading another
one of our
sci-fi book.
albums for our band.
I am reading
Dear
another
Antler.
sci-fi book actually.
So, Dear Antler Velvet is the name of our band, and our name of our album is Arcanon.
Well, we have a lot of albums.
Narconon.
We have a lot of albums.
Narconon, and a different one's called Arcanon.
Okay.
Okay,
the sequel. Anyway, so in those programs, they have I want to call it a procedure, but that sounds like vaguely like a medical.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
but
like a protocol.
a protocol. Thank you.
Burning out stuff.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. But like you take niacin.
I wanted to do it.
I've done it a few times.
What?
Somebody explain this fucking protocol. please.
Okay, you take niacin and you sit
Before
in a hot
Asif freaks
sauna,
out, starts crying.
right? And
Drake, say it again.
you take niacin and you sit in a hot sauna. And what that's supposed to
By
do
the
is-
way, this is not our recommendation.
no, I'm not
concerning
recommending
medical
this.
expert.
I'm just telling you what they do in this
It's a
protocol.
story,
Yeah, this is a story.
a bedtime story,
A
2 a.m. story.
Go to sleep, motherfuckers.
But yeah, so what
Unless
they
you're driving.
do in this protocol is they take this niacin, which you can get over the counter. They sit in a hot sauna for 15-20 minutes or whatever, and what that's supposed to do is flush out from your fat cells toxins. And then what happens for many people is it creates this like almost like a temporary rash where you can see the flushing of all these things coming up to the surface. Your skin becomes a little bit red or irritated or itchy and stuff like that. And then you're supposed to sweat it out. And apparently with the higher doses of this, which again, I'm not recommending this. This is not my advice or anything like that. If you want to do this, talk to your
Healthcare
Google.
professional.
Don't
Talk to your Google.
talk to your Google. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me.
Talk to the CDC.
Talk to the CDC.
Talk to the CDC.
Talk to Fauci.
Talk to Fauci. He
Send him an email.
they'll
like,
probably
before
recommend that you put your
You
head
go to the niacin.
in like a container of
Like a mask?
sandflies who have not eaten, so they could eat your face. Have you seen
before
that?
you do
No.
the hot
Oh, you haven't seen
cleanse,
that?
No,
Oh,
what do you say?
get
So,
your vaccine.
apparently, allegedly, I don't have very solid information on this, but allegedly this is what's being reported. Fauci and the NIH or whatever funded a study at Wuhan, or research or whatever, partially funded this, where they took dogs, they drugged them, they put their heads in some kind of container filled with sandflies who were very hungry, to see if the sandflies would eat the dog's face and potentially kill the dog.
And did
Again,
they?
allegedly. I have no idea. I have no idea if this actually happened, if this was actually funded by
Wow.
the NIH or Fauci or
Jimmy, can you pull that up, please? Right here.
I'm gonna get a Google image here.
Google image.
Box of Sandflies. That's a hit song on our album Arcanon.
box of sandflies. I like it. I like it. Yeah. So anyway, apparently at the higher doses of taking this niacin, sitting in a hot sauna, memories like will come up for these people of when they did drugs. Usually the people who are doing this they're flushing narcotics, and so they'll have memories of having taken ecstasy, and like they'll feel like they're on ecstasy in that moment, or whatever drugs they took in the past. So if you are now sober and you really fondly remember those days and you want to rehash them, go take some niacin and sit in a hot sauna.
No,
flush your
not a
system.
recommendation.
Oh, fuck. No. Wait a minute. Look what you guys got me to do.
Talk to your doctor. Talk to
Dr. Fauci. What'd you
Yeah.
find?
Make sure you get your
Mitchell?
vaccine before you go. into that
It was
sauna.
all speculation, but I did see that image I've seen before with those dogs sitting, like laying there with their heads in the thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's still alleged. It has not been proven as of yet. Not
Not
by
yet.
our
Other
Google
confirmed
research.
So stay
or
tuned.
not.
Yeah.
So anyway, you don't even need to use the niacin. You don't even need to use sandflies. You can just get the sickness that I had. And at 2 a.m., if you're paying attention, that stuff's coming out.
You're really fucking high.
Mitchell, where do I go to get this sickness? How can I get it?
You go to
Is
Texas.
it on your website?
Texas.
You go to
Okay, I'm gonna
event.
drop my PayPal in the link, and you're gonna send me $500,000.
Okay.
But,
all right.
but so that's the significance of in-person events. It'll just push you to the next level, breaks all your fucking shit up, all your
Mm.
patterns, all your ectoplasm. It'll just fuck you up in all the right places. Where the result of it is an upgrade.
Mhm.
And every single time I go to, for example, any kind of event, my life always, I guess people not watching didn't see
Is it a
that.
dance
but
move?
That was sick though.
I
That's
don't
like
think
you.
that's how it
you-
goes.
Like
I think
in those
it's-
Indian movies when they're dancing. Yeah, like
Oh,
that.
very
That
good.
was it.
Very good. If you're
Wow,
not
that was
watching
so
on
much
video,
better.
you just missed Bollywood live right here. Love it. Unfortunately, your videos
yeah.
are cutting out.
It's okay. Yeah, but anytime I go to an in-person event, I see my life accelerate and increase and get better. And then
You see this, Mitchell?
that's why. What's happening? Am I freezing?
Yeah, you're
He's
freezing.
just like doing the thing, but it's all glitchy.
Yeah, you're freezing. You're like
now
ending
I'm
up.
doing it.
Well, now it says now. Now
But
you
I
see-
heard everything you were saying. And I
that's
agree.
weird. Okay.
Like after the last
I agree.
event, I went like 100% closing ratio for literally like 9 days. It was epic.
Shit, dude. So that's the point. Man, I think me too. That's crazy.
Yeah, Same wavelength, bro.
Uh, the point there is it has to be part of your system. It has to be part of your game winning system, right? That's why
Going
events
to
are so
events, yeah.
important. Exactly. So you have your
Like if you're
tools.
not going to events, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Like
Oh,
you're
shit,
just
dude.
your mind is accepting some sort of limitation of like, oh, the event is gonna distract me, and I know I have to do what I have to do at my normal day-to-day life. It's like, how about you just apply yourself in your daily life so effectively, and then you look forward to the event, and then you can actually go to the event and enjoy the event, and then you get an upgrade, and then you come home, and then you plug in even more to your system. Like just do that.
No, Mitchell,
Right.
you don't understand. I would go to
Your life
the
gets
event,
better.
but the CDC said I can't. I shouldn't.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Then you're no longer invited to the event. Sorry.
Oh,
Is my internet connection really bad?
it's terrible. It's terrible. You're like ending up on
Fuck.
this side of the room, then that side, and you're like really close. You're far away. I love it.
Can you see my frown?
Yes, actually. Yeah. Very nice.
See, isn't that
shut up.
fascinating? This whole stay home, stay safe thing. It's like basically stay away and don't get an upgrade.
Right. We're doing the opposite. I was talking about, I think it was last time, how Windows laptops, they have a feature. It's like you can download updates from other laptops. So you don't have to download them from the cloud. And it's just,
Ooh.
we've created in the image and likeness of ourselves. When you're around other laptops, you can download, if they have an update that you don't, then you can get that update from that laptop. And it's something that you can turn on and off. But that's the fucking point, right? That's
Wow.
modeled in the image and likeness of us, whether we did it unknowingly or knowingly. So there's massive utility for the system in keeping us apart, in keeping us social distance. I was at the right by my house is a park, like in like a playground and stuff like that. There's a path that you walk through it. And it was so cute. As I was walking through this path, this little, like, I don't know, 2-year-old walks by. He's like, hey. I'm like, hey. He's like, I'm going to a park. I'm like, cool. And then his dad starts laughing. And I'd walk back around just to sit on a bench or something like that. And there was these 2 kids there. And the parents just kept saying, there's that kid and there's another kid who must be a little bit younger. And they just see each other. They start looking at each other. And that one kid puts his hand like this on the other kid. And they're just kind of like, getting to know each other, right? And the parents are just both like, oh, give space, give space, give space, give space. Jakey, make sure you give space. And there's a man and a woman for the second child. So father and then the mother of the other child, right? And then they both started talking about like, oh, I hate telling them that, but they got to give space, and it's so sad because the kids, they just want to get, but you got to tell them, give space. She's like, I know, I'm a school teacher. I have to tell kids to do all day. She's like, oh, what do you teach? She's like, grade 4 or 5. And so I'm just telling kids all day. And it's so sad because it's so difficult for the kids to learn, they just want to touch each other and be around each other.
So fucked.
But I got to tell them to give space.
It's so fucked because like you're not even questioning what you're doing.
Exactly. Just give your child the vaccine so they don't have to get space anymore. Like, what are you waiting for? Just kidding. That's not a recommendation.
Again, not a recommendation. Don't talk to Fauci about that.
Yeah.
Don't talk to the CDC about that. But don't talk to Pfizer,
They're like, well, if you want to be our first, sure.
Dude, it's really fucked up that you've come into this world and somebody, well, not just somebody, your whole environment, the whole of society has impulsed you to believe that life is this way. You haven't even questioned it. And then now you as an adult, still not questioning it, have not taken responsibility, and you're just going to impulse that on a brand new child who has no understanding or no ability to even question what you're saying. And you're going to essentially going to force them into being like you. Because, and I'm not saying like physically force, although there is, a physical aspect of you pick up a child, you carry them around, you're directing them in that way. But also because you're not giving them the vocabulary, or another way said, because you're not giving them the ability to understand themselves or understand environment and then understand that. It's funny, I was talking with a family this weekend, and this family was a little bit older. There was no children at all in this family. And so I was trying to find a way to really explain what I do is practical for them, right? And in explaining that, I was just really trying to find the words of like, because I want to explain like signified, signifier, right? But that's not vocabulary that a lot of people have. But what I could say was, look, we live in a world where the basic building block of how we understand life, of how we understand the world around us, of how we're able to even do things, just comes down to words, vocabulary, right? And so if the words that you have are, well, all the words that we do have, we have an agreement of what these words mean. When we write down that agreement in a dictionary, right? And if the words that you have are not in alignment with our agreement, then that creates a misalignment or an imbalance for yourself and how you operate within this world and all of that. And that creates chaos in your life. And so in order to come back into balance with life around you, it's a really simple fix. You just realign your words to actually what we all collectively agree, this is what that word means. And really, to take it a step further, it's to realign those words to what's best for all. That makes the most sense, right? But in saying that, many parents, many adults are not doing that for their children. They're just assuming that whatever they get in is enough. It's like, oh, you'll figure it out. And it's funny because you wouldn't do that with like something that's actually important to you. You wouldn't do that. Like, oh, I have this huge project, or, oh, better yet, I want to run this ad campaign. So I'm going to hire this child to sit there and figure it out. And what, you're going to spend all this money, your ad campaign, it's not going to be profitable. You know that. You wouldn't do that, right? But we allow that for our children, of them to just figure it out without giving them the tools first so that they can be effective in it, without helping direct that, without giving them the even like the moment of giving an example of what makes sense, or even giving them just the tools, meaning the vocabulary, so they can understand what the fuck they're doing, right? Instead, what we allow is just, hey, go and figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, well, that's too bad. I can't figure it out either, or I'll do it for you, or whatever. And it's really sad to me that our society has just accepted that we as people, as individuals, have just accepted like, I mean, that's how it was done to me. So yeah, like I got smacked around as a kid. So other kids should get smacked around too. Like, but that's not best. That doesn't even make sense. Why do we hold on to that? Yeah.
So it's just, like, why is the mission to end child slavery, abuse, and poverty? Like, why is that significant?
Yeah. When Mitchell said, that's at the beginning of the podcast, the best thing that you could be doing, or the highest purpose, is to join us and end child slavery, abuse, and poverty. And if you disagree with that, you're a selfish prick. But go ahead, Asif.
Well, why is that the final point? Like, why is that the only thing worth focusing on?
It's not the only thing. It's the only thing right now. It's not the final
Right.
point.
Why is it why is that the first thing
It's the first. It's the first. Because what's normal, what's normalized is that abuse, which then like it's so funny. I mean, it's not funny at all, actually. So many people can't see that their problems in this world come from, well, one, not having money or the money system the way that it is. And two, that stems from us abusing life and abusing ourselves and abusing each other. And so because they can't see that, or they're not self-honest about it, and because they've experienced so much pain or suffering, and I'm not diminishing that, like, yes, they've experienced that, but because of that, they're not, they just want, okay, now I get to win. Now I get to win, and now I get to feel good. And so, everyone is going to feel pain. So I had to feel pain. Everybody has to feel pain. Fuck everybody else. I just want my winnings. And they don't realize that that's actually contributing to perpetuating that for others. And that's exactly what happened to them. And now they're just on the flip side of it. Like, they're the one who's doing that to someone else. It's like, do you want to become the monster? Right? The monster comes after you, attacks you, the zombie, let's say. Oh, that's actually a great analogy. A zombie comes after you, attacks you, has created all this terror in your life, has like ruined things for you, and then you voluntarily become the zombie for other people because you're mindlessly just seeking your own mind. like you've lost the ability to actually connect with reality, and now you're just focused on consuming, right? I think you're still there. Good, Asif. It's like, oh, I think we lost.
I was chopping out over here.
Yeah.
So it's like when we hear child slavery, what images pop into our head?
Like child working in a sweatshop or something.
Right, exactly. And child trafficking and sex slaves and, children being smuggled and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one dimension of slavery. That's a particular form of slavery, which has to end. Because why doesn't anybody care about that?
Yeah.
Right. But there's other forms of slavery. What other forms of child slavery is there?
Well, putting kids in school.
How?
Because it's enslaving kids to a certain type of thinking that's not actually supporting that child fundamentally. Like, they're enslaved into just being this zombie kid.
Right.
That's just retarded.
Like, imagine they had so many years of iterations of school where they said, okay, like maybe if we just keep them in school from age 6 to age 12, maybe that would beat the life out of them and get them to conform to a job. Oh no, life is too powerful. We need to keep them for longer. Let's keep them from 6 to 16. Oh my gosh, let's keep them from 6 to 18. Let's make it even earlier. Let's throw in kindergarten. Let's throw in junior and senior kindergarten. Let's also throw in preschool. See if we can get them from 3 or whatever the fuck till 18. Let's put in post-secondary as well.
Also, let's get their parents to work so they have to put their kids with us. Let's get them both to work. No. And we get extra money out of it too. Ooh, yeah.
And those kids who aren't being obedient, let's create something called summer school for them. So when everybody else is having fun, they're getting punished. We're taking away their summer. That's so fucked. Thinking about it, like summer school, like that's awful. Well, everybody else is free, right? Summer break and all that. But that
Which is still
totally-
fucked in itself. It's like, why are we having summer be free? Like, why isn't every day
exactly.
free?
Why is weekends? I'll tell you something else that the dad was telling the kid at the playground, Jakey. He was saying it's actually pretty cool. There's a little sand pit and there's like a little handheld like excavator,
Nice.
right? It's pretty fun. And he said, yeah, let's go do some work over here, right? And he's like, and then the kid started doing it. He's like, I'm gonna dig a hole. He's like, cool, and I'll dig a hole here, the dad says. And the kid was like, we're doing real work. He's like, yeah, we're doing real work. One, that child is programmed with construction. That's what real work is. Right? What is Max being programmed with? Convince people to do things that are best. It's like a different level of thinking, right? I have a cousin who lives in a lower income neighborhood, and all he wants to be is a construction worker. He's always wanted to be a construction worker. And the biggest thing that he can conceive of is, we have a laundromat my mom runs. It's like he just wants a laundromat because he'd see all the loonies, like the doll, like the gold looking coins, and he's like, I want to build on it. And I'm like, that's cool that you're like, you see the point of, having your own business kind of thing, even though he doesn't understand all the dimensions of that. But it's like, don't get a fucking laundromat. Like, this was when he was, 7, 8.
Okay.
Things like that. Yeah.
It's funny when you say loonies, I think of doubloons. Like
what?
Doubloons, like pirate talk, kind of like coins, like gold doubloons.
Oh, doubloons. I thought you were saying the balloons, like the balloons.
The balloons. I think of the balloons.
Like the balloons, like Dublins. That's pretty funny. So that's what that child's being programmed. Second thing is, child says, are you working, Dad? Are you working today? He's like, no, today's Sunday. Tomorrow I go back to work because it's Monday. What's the problem with that?
It's like basically work is, well, I work on Mondays, or Mondays you have to work, or because Monday, that's work.
Right. And he's like, and so I'll be work from 9 to 5. Right. And it's just like, that's what that child is hearing.
Hey, is that a Canadian thing? I'll be work.
What?
Like instead of saying working, like you guys say work.
What?
You'll listen back and you'll hear it.
I'll be at work from 9 to 5. How about that? Is that
okay? Yeah. That works.
I'll be working.
No, I'll be working from 9 to 5.
I'll be at work. I think that's what I meant to say. But I'll be at work from 9 to 5. Like that's what that kid's being programmed with. Versus you have Bill Gates who's talking to his dad about the law cases that he's doing.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck is he getting programmed with? And so when we say child slavery, it's being done on such a systematic level. What do I mean by that? It doesn't require your systemic as well, but I was referring to the individual level first. About how it's so automated, but you're right, it's systemic as well. It's no fucking doubt systemic. But when I said systematic, it means everybody's doing it the same way. Because what nobody's realized, and you listening to this, what you haven't realized, whether if you have a sales job, if you're a distributor, if you're anything, the way you program reality is with your words. The way you program reality is with your words. If you speak to a child, they are complete moldable jello. Oh, I see a snowflake. That's crazy. Is that real? Hope not. No, I'm trying to get away right now. No, like
I thought that was like part of your story. Oh, I see a snowflake.
Nah, I legitimately think I saw a snowflake. But that is another dimension of child slavery. The way we get them to become this thing that is just what we're programming them with, right? It's like, it's always fascinating to me, just walking through that park and seeing all the kids play and the parents, how they try to control everything and all that. Like, no, 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 don't go over there. He's playing on the slide. It's like more than one person can play on the slide. They can figure it out. But I know that I would have done that exact thing to varying degrees, but I would have just been like, no, don't touch it. Like, blah, 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 and constantly be programming my child to don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Right now, the point is, why is that slavery?
Oh,
Well,
oh, I've got a great like actual there was something done like in the 60s, I think, called like the War on Poverty, right? And through this, they did a series of like research studies where they actually got parents involved, they got kids involved. They were following these kids throughout many years to find out different aspects. Like what they originally wanted to do was take inner city kids, catch them up to their wealthy counterparts, and find out, okay, can these kids learn, just basically on par with the wealthier kids, right? And what they originally did was they took these 4-year-olds before they go into kindergarten or first grade, and they taught them their letters, their numbers, because they realized these parents were not teaching them that at home, and that these kids were starting school without that, and that was making them fall behind. So they taught them their letters and numbers and then put them into school. And then as they're going into school, they're like, wow, these kids, they learned their letters and numbers so rapidly. Like, it was impressive. They were so happy about it. They're like, man, these kids learn maybe even faster than the wealthier kids. And then what they found was, as those kids got to like 4th grade, essentially all the effects of them trying to catch them up in the very beginning had been washed away. It was as if they did nothing at all. And then they said, it must be happening in the home. It must be happening like before 4 years old that we're not seeing. So they asked all these parents to participate in a study where they would put recording devices in their homes. They would go into their homes with recording devices, and they were asking parents of newborns specifically. So these parents would have newborns. They got them all, to participate in this study. People from all different walks of life, people who are wealthy, like they were doctors or lawyers, professions like that. People who were more middle class, people who maybe they were carpenters or plumbers or things like that, tradesmen. And they also had people who were on welfare or working at like, a minimum wage job, something like that. And they recorded how much they spoke to their kids and all of that. And they recorded this data for like over 4 years. And they looked back on these recordings and they found that, oh, the wealthier parents spoke way more to their kids than either other group, right? And not only that, but the quality of words that they were using was different, of course, right? And so if you're thinking about like, these are the foundational years in which you're supposed to be like really gathering the information for what it means to be human, these wealthier kids are getting a much wider base or much stronger foundation, right? But then on top of that, the quality of words, on top of that, what they included in the quality of words was how many times the parents said yes to a child or no to a child. Meaning like how many times they said, yeah, you can do that. You can jump on the couch. No, don't wear your shoes on the rug, something like that, right? And for the wealthier parents, it was something like on the order of, for every 35 times they said yes, there were 5 times they said no, somewhere around there, right? And it was interesting because as you go down the ranks, then the more middle class, they're like 2 to 1, 2 yes, 1 no. And then the welfare minimum wage group, they were the opposite way. For every 1 time they said yes, there's 2 times they say no. And if you think about it, it's like, well, why does that happen? Because, well, we spent our entire paycheck on this couch, or maybe 2 paychecks or 3 paychecks on this couch. And so you ruining that you wearing your shoes or jumping on it or whatever, that's a really big deal, right? Because now I'm going to have to replace this couch. with 3 more paychecks, but we need these paychecks just to survive. It's a whole survival thing, right? Versus fucking jump on the couch, have a ball, we'll replace that tomorrow or whenever we can. But what's that child learning that is being told no? What they're learning is, for one, they're learning that this couch is more important than your emotional well-being, because oftentimes the way they're being told no is not just, hey, let's not jump on the couch because of whatever. It's, get your ass off that couch before I beat your ass, and that's what they're learning. Aside from that, they're learning all these rules that those wealthier kids are not learning. And so they're learning, they're when they grow up to be adults, they're living by these unspoken rules for them. That's, oh, you can't do this. You're not supposed to do that. Don't do this, because to them, when they were kids, they would have got in trouble for that. And here they see all these wealthier people breaking the rules that they learned. And so, to speak to your point of how this is slavery, they're keeping themselves in line. They're never, or very unlikely, highly unlikely, going to achieve what those other kids are going to achieve, because they're not going to break out of their rules. Because to them, it would almost seem like, for the wealthier kids, like, you're unwilling to do these things. Like, oh, you're unwilling to push yourself in this way. But for them, it's like, these are rules that I have to live by, that they don't even probably remember, really. They don't consciously remember them.
Anytime you get a child to do something without explaining it, because you said, do this, don't do that, you're programming them to be somebody who just takes a vaccine. And you're programming them to be somebody who is like, social credit score. Yeah, that'll be good. That would be so good if we had a social credit score, because then I would know how to behave.
That's what we should talk about. I'm glad we finally figured out what to talk about.
Hey, you guys want to do a podcast? Oh, we've been recording the.
We can start now.
Oh, perfect.
We'll just keep everything in from way back when I said cue the intro and said like, subscribe. The point there is, anytime you don't explain, there's only 2 ways that you can make decisions: rationally, through logic and reasoning and explanation and words, principles. And the flip side of that is emotionally, through feeling, intuition, fear, pleasure, etc. There's only 2 ways. And when you don't give a child the words as to why, you're programming them to make decisions emotionally. You're programming them to just listen to you because you're an authority. I heard somebody at the playground say, there was a little Indian family, probably 3 boys, all playing on the structure. And there's one of those poles, like when you walk off the structure, you can slide down a pole kind of thing, like a firefighter kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was an older kid who was doing it. And he's like, he's like, come on, just do it, to the younger brother, right? He's like, come on, just do it, come on. And he said, Dad, tell him to do it. He knows that if Dad says to do it, then kid will do it. I'm like, wow, I used to do that shit too. Wow, holy shit. I'm only now being able to perceive what the pattern of that would play into. But what is that playing into? Right?
Obedience, not thinking, just making a decision based off of emotion.
Exactly. And it's saying, authority said to do it. Authority, tell these fuckers to put on a mask and get their vaccine. It's like, that's not going to change whether or not I do it, because I'm not doing it because, right? And we have to look for all these points in ourselves. Where are we just listening to somebody because we perceive them as an authority, versus if somebody else says something, then we don't listen? Like, what's our ability to consider things in a vacuum of where the information is coming from? Right now, there is benefit. It's shorter. It's a shortcut to listen to someone in particular who has what you want, for example. But shortcuts aren't perfect. That's why it's a shortcut. You're cutting off the process, the due process that's necessary to get the best, right? So in the context of authority, it's like even labeling something as authority, it's like, what do they have authority on? How to take this?
Well,
I
hold
think
up,
we lost
buddy.
him.
Hold up.
Hold up, buddy. Hold up.
Hold your horses.
Listen, buddy. I think you were getting a little too excited there. We're gonna have to cut you out.
He's
Or-
out.
He's out. He's
Such a good point, though, of that whole program of like, get dad to tell him to do that or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but the whole starting point is fucked. It's like, I mean, the kid just wants to play. I get it. But it's like, that kid doesn't have within himself the words to try and sell his little brother on, hey, you should come down the fire pole because it's fun and it's exhilarating.
Yeah.
He's just like, you need to do it.
It's not only that. The point that he was making really clear was you become a slave to your emotions and to your feelings. And so many people don't question that either. And like so many people, think about how many people that you've heard say, well, aren't my emotions and feelings what make me human? Right? As if we're saying you can't have emotions and feelings. We're just saying don't follow your emotions and feelings. Don't let that be the determiner of what you're going to do. Actually make your decisions based on what makes sense, what's best. And you can have the emotions and feelings within that of like feeling amazing for having done the best thing and getting the best result. Right. Mm-hmm. And then there was another point that you were making, us about like, you're then training the kid to basically be someone who goes and gets the vaccine without really even considering. And it's funny because, as I look at that point for myself, I like to question, just like, okay, am I just being stubborn? Am I just being an asshole here? Like, or does this actually make sense? And it's cool to do the research. I know, Mitch, you've got a ton of research now that you'd be like, I'm not touching that thing with a fucking stick, right?
Yeah.
Because you're really clear on it. I mean, right? Yeah. Not that you're fearful of it or anything. It's just like, no, there's nothing within you that you'd have any doubt about it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But it's also funny because if you see the scientists themselves from the different companies who manufactured the vaccines, the scientists themselves are like, I wouldn't give this to a child. I wouldn't take this if you've already had the sickness or anything. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, that flies in the face of everything we know about science. But we also know that the company that we work for wants to make a lot of money, and we're not allowed to say this publicly. We had to sign papers that say we're not allowed to say this publicly. So they're just going along with it too. So it shows really that this is a big propaganda job that's done by the media. And I don't know if I showed you guys, but while I was walking through the airport to go to Minneapolis, there was I guess you would call it a meme, but it was basically like this pilot, this woman pilot, which I found very interesting. Not because women can't be pilots, but that they chose a woman to be the pilot for this image. And she's looking back from the cockpit and she's saying,
oh, I get it now. You want to put a woman with the cockpit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But she's looking back and she's saying, don't make me turn this plane around. Right. Which, what program does that play into? Right. Mom. And then they have another image that comes up, and the other image is an older woman, like grandma's age.
Like grandma, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And she's saying something like remember what I told you, or don't make me look bad, something to that effect. Yeah. Right. And it's funny because that only works if that programming was done to you. Like, if it's basically they're trying to use shame to stop you from doing certain things. But here's a good point. They never had to do that for like you not wearing your seatbelt on the plane, because that just like it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, we're in a moving vehicle. I'm gonna put on my seatbelt, right? And maybe you take off your seatbelt during the flight when the captain takes out the seatbelt sign because like you feel more comfortable or whatever. But generally speaking, no one has to like be like, oh, we are going to turn this plane around if you don't put on your seatbelt, right? Because it just makes sense, right? No one has to shame you to do that, right? And so the fact that they're using shame, it just shows how powerful or how enslaved we are to our emotions, right? And now it's coming in a even bigger way with the social credit score, the ESGs, which is just basically like, oh shit, like if you thought you were being shamed into getting a vaccine that you don't actually want, that you're now being mandated to do, or into wearing a mask that you didn't want to do, or like, it escalated, right? Or from walking outside or walking too close to your neighbor. Oh, Jesus. Like if you thought you were being shamed before, well, now what happens when, hey, your carbon footprint is, too large. You have,
Right.
you're Bigfoot, and now you have to stay home for real, or whatever the case may be, right? We're seeing, yeah, go ahead.
So that's the reality of child slavery, abuse, and poverty. Because if you're telling a child, Monday, you got to go to your 9 to 5, and he was saying, I'm on call today. So that means that when my job needs me, all this stuff, they all go hand in hand, because that's what abuse is. It's the abnormal usage of something. It's the incorrect use of something. So you're abusing a child because that's not what a child is meant for. That's not what life is meant for, to be a slave. How are you programming to be a slave? Well, that father is programming that child to be at effect, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because it's Monday and it's 9 to 5, I have to go to work, and I'm on call because that's my week or 2 days to be on call. And that means I have to be at the beck and call of something I don't want to be doing. Right. And it's that dynamic that is creating that being at effect. That's what slavery is. It's I am at effect to my feelings. I am at effect to fear. I am at effect to the circumstances set up by my slave master, the government, the corporation, my manager, whatever. Right. And you sure as fuck are going to be poor if that's the case. Because authority, it means to author. Whatever you're giving the power to author something, to create, to write the script of, it's like that's what you're giving authority to. And if you're saying something outside of you has authority, the authorities are coming to your door.
The authors are coming to your door.
Right? Like, I'm not going to let them write my book. Now, at the end of the day, we live in a society and there are rules that if you don't participate in, they'll fucking get you. They'll take everything from you. So it's about understanding, how do I operate in the system, in a way that I can grow, prosper, and change the system. But you cannot do that if you're a slave. If you got programmed, like all of us did, to be slaves and to be poor. That's what we got programmed for. This is the important part of how sickness comes into play. Where did Jesus say his words are stored?
The flesh.
In the flesh. All of that information is literally being programmed. We talk about Sometimes we hear about how the mind is outside of us. Okay. But that's not where, if you want to talk about what's outside of you, okay, sure. There is something outside of you. Yes. But that's not where your memories are stored. It's not stored in the floating nebulous around you. Just like the light from my phone, right? The information, the pixels, the light bulbs are in the phone, and it's producing light that emanates to a certain distance away from the phone. But that's not where the light isn't out here, the physical phenomenon that's occurring to produce light. So in other words, it's our memories inside of us. That's what resonance is. It's the physical arrangement of your vocabulary. What I mean by that is, this is why there's two dynamics of vocabulary. One of them is you need to program into your flesh the vocabulary that you need for the next thing. But when you change your resonance is when you put that vocabulary into action. It's when you go do stuff, when you get the real experience. You can, because you can learn all the words to having sex. But until you do it, you're never going to get it. Right. And once you do it, right, you ever have that friend in high school where it's like, he's going to hang out with that girl and you're trying to like see, like, did they do that, and then he comes back and the guy's just like different. You're like, yeah, they're like, what, My point is, there's a resonant factor that other people can pick up on when you do something. This is why people who have experience in things, they have certainty. You can't take that from somebody. You can't take certainty because it's from experience. It's from something that you've done and you saw the result of. So my point in bringing that up is that's what you're experiencing. The physical phenomenon is what you're experiencing in your aura, in the thing around you, because it is vibrating. It is stored inside of you physically, and it does have a range to it. But your memories, your programming, the words, your beliefs, all that stuff is actually stored in your body. And again, it's not floating around in your body. It's physically stored, just like your computer. The information's not floating around your computer or floating around your phone. It is in physical storage. That's how it works for a human being too. That's why Jesus was saying, the living word, my words are my flesh. He said, eat my flesh. Did he not?
I thought it was
Did he
eat my
literally?
shorts.
That's Bart. That's Bart Simpson.
But
eat my flesh. It didn't mean symbolically create crackers that are supposed to represent my fucking flesh and then eat it. He was saying, live my words. Now, here's the thing. What words are we living? We're living the words of slavery, abuse, and poverty.
Hang on, because there's a really cool point within what you just said. Okay, that ceremony, whether it actually happened that way or not, that's up for debate, I guess. But this bread is my flesh. Right? Take this, eat it. In other words, like, my flesh is, or word, stored in the flesh, right? And this bread is my body, like an analogy for my body, meaning when you eat bread, it gives you life. It sustains you. Well, if you live the words, if you take in and integrate the words that I've been living,
you're gonna get that bread. That's what he's trying to say.
You're gonna get that bread, baby. Let's get it. Yeah, but you will sustain your life. You will live if you live by these words, if you actually integrate, if you process what I'm saying. That's so much more profound than, like, again, eating crackers dipped in some wine.
Right, exactly. Just think about it, right? If we don't take
crackers,
if we don't take the words of Jesus symbolically and metaphorically, then was he literally just telling us, like, don't just give people fish, like you want to teach them how to fish? Like, was he actually just talking about fucking fishing?
And if so, why doesn't everybody know how to fish right now?
Right. Exactly. Like clearly all of reality and all of religion was just designed to get us to teach people how to fish.
We should all be fantastic fishermen. And I'm upset
Or
at each and every one of you who does not know how to put a worm on a line.
yeah, Drake's running a master class for that later.
After the
but-
masterclass.
Exactly. The second the war. Yeah, Drake's PayPal will be in the description below. That'll be church. So he's doing the poop class, and then after that is church. That's where he's going to teach you how to become a fisherman, because apparently that's religion.
That's right.
Or
and also you can find Mitchell's PayPal in the description below for that sickness that gets you high.
Right, exactly. So you can relive your experiences of drug-induced euphoria. So it's either he's actually talking about legit catching fish, or he was a master salesperson, a master communicator, and he understood, oh, I need to tell stories. I need to tell stories in order to influence people so that people get the message. Because immediately the reason why we remember them is because we hear it and we're like, oh, fucking obviously. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat once. Got it. Teach a man to fish, he eats for life. Got it. That's the power of stories, right? The point is, consider what Drake's saying. Don't brush it off, because if it's either you take it for literal, hey, no, you was talking about eating bread and shit like that, then you have to take all of it literally.
Also,
Pretty whack.
Also, if you consider that as well, like if you give a man a fish, you've enslaved yourself and that man.
Right. Why? Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how to create what you've done. And so now
that's jobs.
Exactly. And that's also like telling somebody as opposed to giving them the ability to understand.
Yeah,
that's why what the fuck we're doing is so fucking important, because check it out. We're talking about creating a system by educating yourself so that we all take on responsibility to really change this system, because we all see it for ourselves. If someone else is telling you what it is, if someone else is telling you about I'm just going to use this word, this is not what we're talking about, utopia, right? But that's what many people equate when we say best for all. We're not talking about utopia. We're talking about best for all, meaning we're taking the responsibility for ourselves. But so many people, the first thing they think is somebody else is going to implement this for us. Some authority, some director or dictator or whatever is going to come in and tell me what I should be doing. That's what we live in right now. That is giving a man a fish. And then that enslaves that other entity, that other person, whatever, to, oh, I have to continue giving you fish if you're going to live, because you don't know how to fucking fish. And so I have to do this for you. And that person's like, I have to do whatever you ask so I can keep getting these fish, right? As opposed to teaching a man to fish, meaning in this context, giving that responsibility, that education, that we all become equals. Hey, you can do this too. You can do this. I'm not going to do it for you. You can do this too. And supporting you so that we are all equals within the system, so that we create this system to be really what is best for all. We're all individually taking responsibility. It's not coming from the top down, forcing it upon us, but rather we see the practicality of why we would want to do this, because we have that education for ourselves, because it makes sense, because we have the education, because we've walked through all that shit. This is why why it's so important. You get TechnoTutor, why you do this DIP process, you do self-forgiveness and look at your past, what we talk about in the self-perfected group, which I don't think we've said it in a while, but you can join us on Facebook. Just search self-perfected in groups on Facebook, answer the questions, and we have.
Hey, hold on real quick.
Go ahead.
I was somebody was like, hey, they're getting a TechnoTutor and they're asking me about self-perfected. I was like, yeah, just Facebook search it, self-perfected, and you'll see the group come up. she's like, Facebook. Oh, she's like self-perfected. Is it what is it? Self-perfected Minnecola, like self-perfected Minneapolis? Is it self-perfected? What is the one that John and Zoe are doing? Where is that?
Missoula.
Oh, Missoula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like self-perfected Missoula. I'm like, oh snap. She's seeing all of the local groups that are being created. She can't
That's
even
awesome.
find the global group.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. So you want to search for the group that just says self-perfected. It has a black logo. At the time of recording, there's about 1.1 thousand.
1.2.
Oh shit, buddy. Did we really break that? That's awesome. Yeah, so you want to look for the one that's just self-perfected. Black logo. The point there is, because we got programmed into slaves.
The point there is live Jesus's words.
Yeah.
Live Jesus'
the only way you're
words
going to do that.
And learn how to fucking fish.
Yeah.
But legitimately, educate yourself, get techno tutor, do DIP, walk this process, join us, because you're not going to do it alone, right? If you're actually going to make an impact in the world, you have to have other people. Well, we're already doing it. We've already gotten a great group together with amazing people who are walking this process for themselves. They're seeing themselves change. They're seeing the change in their kids. They're seeing like the people that they talk to, the way that they communicate has changed completely. And it's amazing. It's beautiful. And it's a lot of fun. And so what I'm saying is, if you really want to live those words, if you really want to see the world around you to become really what is best, and not in a forced way, not in a way that you're doing things you don't want to be doing, but rather in a way that makes sense, where you get to live your best life for real. Everyone else gets to live their best life. Everyone is taken care of. You don't have to worry about other people. You don't have to worry about yourself. You don't have to worry about your children. You don't have to worry about abusing your children. You can stop abusing yourself. Then join us. It's really that simple.
And maybe in a world that's best, which maybe we'll get sick less. Maybe 80-20, like you said. But until then, because we're all programmed like slaves as words in the flesh, gotta get sick. Gotta get those words out of the flesh. So program in the new with Techno Tutor and DIP. Get sick, upgrade, become life, learn to fish, learn to code, learn to poop, learn to take the niacin saunas. Like, share, subscribe, comment if you would do the niacin sauna. Comment if you wouldn't do it. Yeah, join the Facebook group. If you're part of the Facebook group, comment. I'm part of the group. This Friday, I'll be hosting the clubhouse, the hangout, the global hangout. And that is going to be a massively profound hangout. This is going to be one particular hangout that literally nobody would want to miss. It's not going to be the same on recording. For those of you who listen to the recording afterwards, who stay in the live chat, this is going to be the one that you want to be in the room for. For those of you who might have to stay up pretty late, and sometimes you prefer to, just watch it the next day, this is going to be one that you want to be in the room for. So particularly if you don't have a notification, an alarm, specifically an alarm, because you got to go turn that shit
like
off.
A really alarming ringtone.
Right, exactly. Like crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
Put
Where
an
like
alarm.
an image of that deer with the antlers pops on your phone.
Exactly. And then our album Arcanon afterwards. Deer Antler, Velvet, and Arcanon. Put an alarm. Like right now, if if you're wishy-washy on being there, put an alarm in your phone, put a notification and an alarm in your phone
5 p.m.
for
Central,
5 p.m.
Friday.
Central Standard. 5 p.m. Central Standard on Friday, because there's going to be a big reveal that I know is going to support a lot of people in their process. It's going to be very, 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 very important for people to get to the next level. So other than that, rock and roll,
Yo.
boys.
Yeah.
Fucking
Fuck
slap
yeah.
it up. If you're
Let's
listening to
do
this, make sure you have a great week. Join the group.
The best week.
Have one-on-one conversations. Those are of utmost importance to push yourself to get specific support to level up. What do you think, boys?
I think
I think
that's
let's
amazing.
let's end it there and see you guys next week. Bye.